Well, hello, Maura Silverman. What's going on? How are you?
Hey, Angie. Nice to see you. I'm
It,
very well. I hope you are.
I'm doing fine, blessed and highly favored. Blessed and highly favored. We are the new kids on the block or at the NAA. I'm a new board member, and I'm very proud and thankful that they have entrusted me to be kind of one of the voices of people of a person with aphasia to be on the board. And you are our new executive director. So I wanted to come talk to you, learn a little bit about you, and see if I can get an inside track. Get
I'll
in
give you
good with
all the
the
scoop.
get in good with the executive director.
Well, we're so honored to have you on the board. And, I'm the new kid on the block, but I've actually been involved in the NAA since I started in the field. So let's say if the NAA is 35 years old and I have had 34 years of experience,
All right, we're carrying the one. We're carrying the
we're all
one
friends.
now. Right, we're carrying the one, and that time goes by so fast.
It does.
I was I was listening to the news the other day, and they had solved Tupac's case, and they said, "Well, 3 decades," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I
When
had
you
to ask
listen to the radio and you're playing old time music or the oldies and you realize that's what you grew up with.
Yeah, I'm like,
So
New
it's great to
Edition is
be
on
here.
Soul Time. Why is New Edition being played on Soul Time? Exactly. Exactly. So with the work that you did before the NAA, what were you I know you had like a nonprofit or something, but tell me about that and what made you want to come over to the NAA and take this
Yeah.
leap.
Well, it was a leap. It was indeed. And I feel very excited and honored to have been chosen for this position. But I have been intertwined and weaved into the aphasia world for years. Number one, as a provider, as I just mentioned, I'm a speech language pathologist. I'm also a fierce advocate, believe very strongly in communicative access for all. And I was a care partner. My mom had a stroke in 2009, long after I had started the Aphasia Project in North Carolina. So I got to see all sides of it. And starting a nonprofit organization 20 years ago was really part of the education. Being a speech pathologist for 34 years was part of the education.
Mm-hmm.
But I really credit the insights and lessons, the lived experiences of people with aphasia for teaching me how to communicate with people with aphasia, how to recognize needs, and then experiencing my mom's aphasia journey, her friendships that changed, her
Yeah.
challenges throughout the healthcare system. I've been mentored by some amazing colleagues, but it's you, people with aphasia, that allowed me to have enough skill set to bring to the NAA. So,
Well, let me ask you this. In regards to when your mom and you're watching your mom kind of go through her journey, what did you find to be the most I don't want to say frustrating, but the most challenging in that environment, watching your mom, and yet you already know everything about aphasia because you're SLP, you have been doing it, so it's kind of almost like a stroke of insight, but on the other side where you got to live it and see it. How was that?
yeah, thank you for asking that. So many people said, you must have started the Triangle Aphasia Project or being involved in nonprofit work with aphasia because of your mom. Well, remember, I had started that years before. So when my mom had her stroke, and I recognized all of the impacts on her life, on our life as
Yeah.
family. When your mother has a stroke, she's your guide, she's your
Yeah.
light and teaches you. And she had a very prophetic voice and a extremely talented writer and nurse. And
Wow.
What frustrated me most was people not allowing her to use her voice. We'd go to doctor's appointments and they would turn to me and say, "How's she doing?"
Yeah, yeah.
She's right here.
Right.
Um,
She can, yeah, she can
yeah.
respond. She totally can hear you. And that's
And
one of the
friends
things.
and family that would talk and jump in and give her the answers. And,
Right.
I
And
was,
it's never the right answer. Because if it's the right answer, I'm actually okay with it. But when it's the wrong, when you're way off, is when it's like you're not even, we're nowhere, we're not even in the same like area.
yeah, I think it's not even just the words, it's the cognitive competence that people don't realize is behind the language challenges.
Yeah.
And if someone can't see somebody's intellect and their lived experiences because of a communication challenge, and then not even allow them access to use it just fueled my passion. And
Right.
it's interesting. I'm going to give you a lot of credit here, Angie, and Dr. Celeste Gadsden, and your podcast, Brain Friends, which I love. And
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
I was listening the other day, and she was asking you a question about to be alive is to, and it's one of the older podcasts, but she said her to be alive was to walk. I wrote it down so I didn't mess it up. Walk in your purpose and passion. And I was like, yes, that's what I do. And that's how I feel about my work with aphasia. So imagine being able to now work at a national level to share those experiences. So
That
yeah.
that is awesome. And my mom had 5 strokes as well, or 4, in her lifetime. And people don't know what they don't know about communication. And I say this all the time. People do not judge you by what you know. You are judged by what you can prove you know. And when you can't prove it because you can't communicate, people tend to it's definitely something else. But let me ask you this, back to the current climate and what's going on at the NAA. I find the NAA to have been like a sleeping giant that's been awakened. Like it was.
Wow, what a great analogy. We're the analogy queen. Awesome. Awesome.
So now that it's been awakened, it's you, and obviously you're in charge of the coffee and and all the stimulants.
Right.
What are you going to bring to the table that's going to keep it alive, keep that keep energy going, so people with aphasia can find a light? There's a lot of smaller groups that's kind of shot off that are new, but they were needed because of things, of holes. They were trying to fill holes in their community. But now the NAA is reasserting itself after COVID and being online and being brick and mortar and now coming back around. What do you feel as though you're going to bring to the table to help us reach those next levels?
Wow. I really love that question. And mainly because you talk about all of the timeline, that the NAA has gone through, and the idea that, back in 2014, they made a really hard decision to close down the brick and mortar. But you know what kept all of this stuff alive is people who cared. It's a community. I'm not at a table by myself. I'm at a table with individuals with lived experience of aphasia, whether they be persons with aphasia, care partners, families, friends of people with aphasia, which is huge. And that the board of directors and the contractors and all the people that volunteer, I have never seen a more dedicated group of people that said, we are not going to let this go anywhere. Darlene Williamson, who, one of my mentors, friends, colleagues, is highly responsible for keeping all of this together, and was never the executive. Yeah, I mean, the NAA has not had an executive director. It's just that everybody pitched in to do what they can. And so this, wakening of the giant, all of a sudden I feel very large, large and in charge, is, you know, that they answered the call. And you mentioned these other, you know, programs that were looking for something and couldn't find it. And I
Like
think that,
Arch, like
art,
Arch.
yeah. And you and I had a great discussion the other day about a tree and how a tree is just steady, you know, even when the wind blows, there might be some branches that break off or leaves that fall, but the trunk stays really intact. And then there's these limbs, and these limbs were there to help beautify the entire, you know, tree and all the services. And I really think that we need to reach out, collaborate more, make it a situation where people who are serving people with aphasia feel supported by the NAA and have access to other programs as well.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like that it's the incredible work of the people that are sitting at the table with me. These past 2 weeks since I started, I have been having these touch point meetings where I talk to stakeholders, and I'm not done yet. So if you're out there, be ready for a call. You know, we're ready, and there were obvious needs, but we are listening. We're finding out what's still needed and where the holes are. And we're supporting the other organizations that are out there doing this important work.
It is. And I think when you have something that is that community outreach is so important. What are the projects that you're most excited about working on now that you've come out of your own nonprofit, everything that you've learned from that, everything that you learned with the situation with your mother, and that personal effect that you have? What are the things that you're most excited about to be bring on board with the NAA?
Well, I think this is a first step too, is the faces of the NAA, the
I thought
people
you've been
that are
talking to
there.
me, but I was like, okay.
I am talking to you. You know, that personal touch, that authenticity, bringing in, you know, putting a human touch to an organization that is almost bigger than life, right? That has been around for so long. I think to answer your question, I would really focus back on the mission. The mission started, you know, way back, 1987 by Dr. Martha Taylor Sarno, and her vision remains the same. You know, I had a lovely opportunity to talk to her when I accepted the position, and we talked about how it's really important to be mission driven and to look at what pillars does the NAA have that people donate to support, that people engage as volunteers. And those are education, providing education, providing resources to make things easier for people. So there is a way for people to get information, and supporting research. And, you know, that's kind of an awesome status to be able to provide those three things in this dream team environment that we have.
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially the research and the community, because when you can't communicate, you reach out to the national. You want something that says,
Yes.
listen, there is a path forward.
Yes.
And that's, I think, is what I would like to see from the NAA, is it being the path forward, like the first step, not the last step, but the first step that people take. And then, you know, you kind of find your way through, because aphasia is hard. It is hard. And I was, you know, I did a lot of work to get my a lot of my conversation back. And it's, you know, and it's still a struggle, but I think the things that we do can help people. I think we can make the difference if we put ourselves and just wake up the giant. So I'm so glad that you're here, that you're going to be making these moves, and I feel like it's going to be great. I do have one more question for you.
Can I add one piece to one of the things you just said? Because it was so important and I don't want it to get lost.
What's that?
You're talking about a communication challenge that so many people don't know about. So
Oh,
one of the
yes.
things that we've talked about before is how the NAA has done amazing work on bringing awareness, and they continue to find ways to bring awareness. But it's more than knowing what it is. It's also important for us to share what it's not, that it doesn't
Ooh,
have to stop you, that it's the path.
that part.
And
That part.
yeah, right. And I think that one of the things that we can do, based on the voices that I'm hearing of people with aphasia, is to not just tell people what aphasia is and what it is not, but also the impact it has on people's lives. And I really feel like the focus can be a lot on the impact. And so I love and appreciate how you put that question and how you responded to it.
Yeah, it's so important. I think we need a hero. We need a we need a hero. We need a
Oh, I didn't know we
spokesman.
had to sing in this interview.
Exactly. But I think what Michael J. Fox did for Parkinson's, we have Bruce Willis, but that's PPA, which is different than getting it from a stroke or whatever, or traumatic brain injury. But we need someone who can speak to the public and say, when you say you have Parkinson's, people know how to respond. You say
Yes.
you have aphasia, they want to know if you're contagious. They've never heard of it.
Right, right.
And it's hard enough that you can't speak, but then you can't even tell a person what it is that, and it's like a vicious cycle. And what I want to say is literally always on the tip of my tongue. I know what I want to say. It's just blockages that stop me from saying it. So I have to kind of go around it, which is exhausting.
I can't imagine. But those descriptions, those zingers, as one of our board members just talked to me about, are the things that will be relatable to people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
people will have that kind of feeling of like, oh, I understand what you mean. Like you had a great analogy about how you get to the grandma's house and you're sitting out front and you're like, wait, it's not here, but I know it's
Yes.
here. It was such a great one. So yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
Go ahead and ask your question.
that's episode 6, season 1, neuroplasticity.
You were going
Oh
to ask me
goodness.
another question.
I am going to ask you one more question before we get up out of here. Um, for those who, all right, I do know. I think I'm good. I think you actually answered my question in your last question. I was going to ask, within you fitting into the organization, what do you, I know what you hope to bring, but what are your first things that you're going to tackle other than your touch points and you talking to people? What's the thing that you can't wait to get started on?
I love that. I love that because there's so many great things going on right now. And it's hard not to dive into each of them. The PPA task force has been doing amazing work. We're in the middle
What does
of,
that
we
stand
do
for?
the primary progressive aphasia task force has all kinds of resources that they're building to go on our, wait for it, new website, which
Whoa.
has been certainly a big improvement to being able to allow people access. We're doing funding for the second round of researchers who are doing really important aphasia research that align with our mission.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's most difficult is kind of holding me back a little bit. And, you want to get started so badly, but knowing that we're in a new era here, and that the NAA now has an executive director. One of the first things that we need to do is really structure and build this infrastructure. I made an analogy to Darlene the other day that when you walk into a new house, my husband and I are having a townhouse built, and when we walked in, it has this great foundation. It was pre-drywall meeting, so great foundation, and you could see the view, and all these contractors had been in with their talents and, you know, cool things in the electricity and the plumbing.
Right.
But I can't move a couch in yet, and I can't hang a picture yet. I can't paint walls that aren't there. So with the help of the board of directors and of all these volunteers, I'm hoping that we really build this structure that remains the legacy it is
Yes.
sustainable for years and years to come. And that, you know, when this face is replaced by a prettier one, that will be, you know, it'll keep going. So I'm really excited, and I get to keep collaborating with awesome people like
All
yourself.
right.
So
Well, I will
thank
say
you.
this. Let's just make sure that we mention to people that we are always looking for volunteers. Volunteers are
Sure are.
welcome. People with aphasia, reach out. We are here for you. There is a wanting community, wanting to be there for you. So just know that, and you're not alone on this journey. And I think it's just phenomenal, and I'm so glad that you have come on board, and they've made me elected me as a board member, and I'm going to do all I can as a person with aphasia to do what I can and to make sure
There's
that
no one
we are
I'd rather
represented.
walk the journey with. I'm glad that we came in at the same time.
It's our time to shine, girl. It's our time to
Yeah.
shine.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Have a great day.
Brain friends.